Okay, with that fanfare, we are live and welcome to RV Life Pro product training. This is the spring kickoff for our very first official episode of the year. If you are running into this broadcast late or you run across it a bit later, wonder, hey, why wasn't I emailed? We didn't email anybody on this one yet. We want to make sure things work as planned and but we did do a Facebook announcement, a couple of them. StreamYard has an automated functionality to uh, let people know. It post up something on YouTube and on Facebook. So for those of you that are here, welcome and thanks for coming. Our goal here is to try to do this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Um, we'll focus on RV Life Pro and the components that make it up. However, we're not adverse to RV life questions in general as time goes on and as time allows. So we'll see how that goes. I'll bring in an assistant if needed to wrangle comments as those if those get out of hand. And once I get more familiar with the platform, maybe even have some guests or even bring you on when you have a question. So that should be interesting. And once we're comfortable with the way things are flowing and we feel like we've got the system down the way we want to, we'll most certainly start emailing and including notifications about the broadcast in newsletters and whatnot. Um, so our number one goal with this broadcast simply is to help our customers and potential customers understand our tools, use them better, enjoy them more, and just get the most out of our products and out of the value that we provide in those. Um, in addition, and we'll touch base on this. In addition to this broadcast, which is seasonal for the most part, COVID kind of threw a wrench in the works as it did everyone. But we will, of course, we have our support email contacts. So we'll actually touch on these a little bit later. But we have our group of support, our help desk folks that are monitoring the emails constantly. We've got a couple of Facebook groups as well as a couple of YouTube channels. So we'll touch on that in just a little bit. Um, I want to let's see a little bit of what else have we got? A little bit of house cleaning. So this broadcast will it'll live on Facebook. For as long as Facebook keeps it there, which is kind of, I don't know, 30 days maybe. The issue with that is oftentimes it's just hard to find. Now, as people make comments, it kind of pushes it back to the top again, and then you see it. But we're also streaming directly to YouTube now, our RV Life Pro YouTube channel. And so this will be found under the playlist called Past Live Stream, whereas currently it's certainly the preview and then potentially this video are in the um, current live stream, or I think it's just called live stream. So I would love for anybody that's out there to just post a comment and let us know you're there, either on Facebook or YouTube. Just say hi. Excuse me. We will be running into some. We'll be talking. We'll going in depth here in a few moments. About a variety of things. I actually have a lot of things I've put together, some of them based on phone calls I've taken, or perhaps emails or inquiries from the help desk. And we just want to touch on a few things that have come up and see how we can help. All right. So moving forward, I would like to um, let's first understand how we can get help. Well, let's even back that up a little bit. What the heck, hey Bob, what the heck is RV Life Pro? And so I'm going to share a screen with you, and we will go to share screen, and we're going to grab this one, and we'll just do this little number there, and we'll do as such. Now we're going to drop over. So what you've got here is RV Life Pro. And just to help people understand what is RV Life Pro, I always liken it to Microsoft Office. You know, we all speak in generic terms about Microsoft Office, but what we often mean is Word, you know, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, that type of thing. And a lot of times we just kind of Microsoft Office, you know, as a catch-all. So RV Life Pro is a suite of tools, suite of products here. Um, we have the RV Life GPS mobile app, which is is again part of the tool. This will help you navigate through with RV safe directions. There's several different ways to use that. We have RV Life Trip Wizard, which is kind of the cream of the crop, the king of the hill, if you will, as far as the RV trip planning, and will be the bulk of what these sessions are about is using and understanding RV Life Trip Wizard to plan RV life trips and events. Within that circumference, if you will, is RV Life Campground Reviews. While it is a standalone site, it is also all of the data beneath RV Trip Wizard, RV Life Trip Wizard. So you don't have to go somewhere else to get the data that you need. And part of RV Life Pro also includes RV Life Maintenance. This is currently a website and we are in the works to create that a simple mobile app. So as we said, the bulk of what RV Life Pro is RV Trip Wizard, RV Life Trip Wizard. And let's just pop over to our screen, see what we've got here. Oh, very good. Hi, Mickey, and glad to have you on board. And again, our goal here, I'm playing with these new screens too. Our goal really is we're not here to sell you anything. We just want you to be able to use our product successfully because we believe, and I certainly believe, it's the best thing there is for RV trip planning. So without further ado, let's jump into a couple of things. What I'd like to show you first is, let me bop back down to this other screen, let's go back to the circle around to the help functionality again. It was real easy in days of old. You got a software manual and you read it, right? And then we don't do that anymore. We've got a couple of tools at your disposal. First, if you're in RV Trip Wizard, and regardless of what menu or screens you have open here, you will have your little people icon, your little avatar icon in the upper right-hand corner, and we can go to help. And within the help menu, we've got, of course, documentation. And I'm just double checking my screens. Yep, everything's popping up. This is a fairly elaborate and up-to-date and intuitive little set of tools here. It's quite in-depth. Our team does an amazing job at providing that for you. Next, we have community support. And this, in fact, I get questions about this all the time. This is a forum on irv2.com, which is the #1 RVing forum. And we have a specific forum thread, if you will, called RV Life Trip Wizard. And you can ask questions here that not only will catch the attention perhaps of our support team, but more often real RVers that have used Trip Wizard that understand it and want to help. That's a great little option there. We're just cleaning up some windows here. And we have video support. And this is one of my favorites because it takes us to the RV Life Trip Wizard YouTube channel. And we're going to see our product training videos across the top. We're going to see some older videos down throughout. So this is in addition to the other things we mentioned, the RV Facebook. We have, of course, the RV Trip Wizard, the RV Life YouTube channel. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. We also have the RV Life YouTube channel, which is similar. This is where the live streams are running. Actually, I don't want to go there right now because I'll be feedback loop on myself and really cause some potential issues. So we will, we'll drop, in fact, I think I can do those now. I'm going to drop all these links into the comments section. And we're just going to see what that does. And hopefully we won't break the internet. But it should provide some links that'll be helpful to you. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, moving on. So we also want part of that, as we said, this broadcast is also trying to help and answer questions. So what we would really like to see, oh, Tim's used it 6 times this year. Awesome. Thanks, Tim. What we really want to see as this thing gets some traction, and doesn't look like those links might be okay. As this thing really gets some traction is to see your questions, to come to these broadcasts ready with those sticky questions you just don't understand, don't know how to fix, don't know what to do, and that type of thing. So that's certainly the live aspect of this. It's the biggest part. Obviously, I could record videos all day long and post them on the YouTube channel, and they would be fine and helpful. But ultimately, the live interaction, demonstrating what you're talking, do some back and forth is really what we want to talk about. And I see Rick's got a comment here, and I'm supposed to be able to do this. Let's click on this thing, show. How about that? Now we can see the comments on the screen, right? We'll use it to plot a trip, but having issues using it as a GPS with CarPlay. So I'll touch on that real quickly. Um, we've found one of the secrets that I keep hearing from the CarPlay world, with the assumption that the phone is up to date, the iOS is up to date, the CarPlay is up to date, and all that in your vehicle, is that very often if you'll start your navigation first, then plug in the phone, your head unit goes, oh, hey, they want to navigate somewhere. And it brings up the navigation. You should have navigation on your screen and then turn by turn on your phone. So we'll let that go for now, and Rick can elaborate on that as we go forward. Um, Looking at my notes, we talked about the questions, to post your questions. One last quick note here is we'll talk about, so RV Life Trip Wizard is a browser-based tool, not to be confused with the RV Life app, which is the navigation aspect of that tool. Having said that, since it's browser based, it can operate on your laptop or your computer or your tablet or even your phone if you prefer to create trips on your phone. For the intent of teaching and showing you all the features in real estate, we're going to do that on a laptop screen. I'm not going to try to do that on a tablet or a phone. What you will find, however, let's just do this real quick is you can see here in my demo screen, I have a trip menu on the left, I have the map in the middle, and I've got the research tab on the right. Well, what we're going to find is as your screen size changes, albeit either going to a tablet or a phone, or sometimes we see folks with a real high magnification level on their browser to help them see a little easier. So suddenly their screen doesn't match our instructions or our videos. And I'll show you that real easily here. I tested it earlier, it should work fine. There you go. So if I currently now have my browser set to 125% magnification instead of the even 100%. And you can see that suddenly our trip menus down here at the bottom, our map, our research, and our count information, things have moved around, but they're all still there. So if you're working on a machine or a computer or a tablet or something and it's a little bit different, just understand that everything is still there. It just might be a little bit different locations. So we just want to get that out of the way. So for folks that are following along, they understand what that's about. All right, I'm going to go in and check some comments real quick. I'm reading Rick's comment here. Trip was fantastic. I'll tell you guys, going to start navigating, lose the turn by position within a few minutes. Google Apps, Waze, all working solidly. Okay. So Rick, one thing you might try to combat that is one of the options we have in the app. You know what? I can show the app. Let's get brave, and we're just kind of bouncing around a little bit here to fill the needs. So that's good. Let's take that off for a second. I am going to stop that screen share, and I'm going to share something else. Let me make sure my phone's awake. Okay, and we're going to share, and we'll do a little split. How about this? That looks pretty good. It's kind of small. Let's go back to the other one. We'll go back to that. It's a little bit bigger. So here is the map that would come up typically in our mobile app. This is what the home screen looks like. This is the campground map. And trips is where I would have my RV life trip wizard trips that I've created. So if I'm going to take, for example, this Mount Rushmore trip here, I'm going to start my navigation by pressing this red arrow right there. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but Rick, one suggestion might be if you're losing some kind of a signal of some type, possibly downloading the maps and RV routing for your trip ahead of time might be beneficial. It's not required. I mean, I'm here in the DFW area, and if I go anywhere 3, 4, 5 hours away, I mean, I'm never going to lose my signal. So I don't really have to download. But if you're having any kind of an issue, certainly downloading is an option. And note how it only downloads the states that are involved in my trip. And that can actually be controlled elsewhere in the mobile app. So, and Rick has downloaded all the maps in advance. So Rick, I wouldn't rule out deleting the app and reinstalling. One of the things you could do is to maybe just shoot an email to our help desk. I did get sidetracked because I really wanted to show you guys that. So let's bail out of here for just a second. And I want to go back to Trip Wizard. One of the support options I really wanted to show you was very specific here in the help menu is to go to the contact tab. Note there's another tab for videos. I don't know that I would do a lot with that. Rather stick with the video support shown here. But in the contact tab, it pre-fills all your data, and now it's ready for you to describe your issue. And I would not hesitate to ask them, say, hey, here's the trip name I'm working with. Here's the behavior I'm seeing. And we've got people that can test that. We've got simulators and things. We can see what's going on often. It'll also send you some technical data about your phone, about your hardware, that maybe we can look and see a vision or reversion of a revision or firmware or something along those lines that might help them to troubleshoot the problem. Because generally we just don't see that type of an issue. Pretty much you start the navigation and you just go. So Rick, I hope that's helpful. We definitely want you to be in touch, but just a little bit about our help team. We have real RVers that are also technical savvy. They know our software. They have careers that span the globe and the map of what their backgrounds are. But they're also real RVers, and they understand our tools. They understand the expectations. And they're working all hours of the day and night, it seems. That we've got West Coast, East Coast, and everything in between, night owls and morning. I forget the whatever not a night owl is. Early risers, early bird, and whatever. And so it's almost like a 24-hour email service, although I won't state that it is, but it's certainly. We've got folks looking at it a lot, in a whole variety of folks. So when you have questions, don't leave it to chance. Don't wonder. Don't just go into your Trip Wizard, and then actually that contact is built on the phone as well under the More section. I'm just looking now. Under More, under My Profile, and so at the very, very bottom called Contact Support. So just so that. So thanks, Rick. And Rick says he's going to delete and reinstall and try support again. It could be a boogered up install that's corrupted file or something like that. In the old software days and Windows support, it seemed like files would get corrupted and registry would get corrupted and things like that a lot. I don't think that happens as much, but we know with apps, with their nature, the mobile and shutting down the way they do and whatnot, it never hurts to delete and reinstall. So hopefully, Rick, we will see some resolution there. And so Rick asked, should a trip across the city? Yeah, I would be real interested to just do a regular trip without worrying about downloading the maps or anything, where you're just in your city and you're just navigating. I mean, we use it all the time around here to just for testing and just to fiddle around. It is really a pretty simple function that obviously, like you said, Google Maps and Waze, it's just like that. It should work just as easily. And if it's not, it points to a software problem or an install problem of some kind, because it really should just work. So thanks, Rick, and we appreciate you jumping on and providing some feedback. All right, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to move past the kind of the support aspect of it. We wanted to just really emphasize that we're trying to be there on. Oops, I just kicked the camera. We're trying to be there on multiple fronts. But what I'd really like to do is demonstrate a couple of key features of RV Life, Trip Wizard. One of them is a technique, and I'm just double checking my screens here. Um, I have something planned with this one, but let's just do a quick new trip. Now let's see if I have the Mount Rushmore. I had the Mount Rushmore here. Let me open this Mount Rushmore trip because I had something very specific in mind with this. And the idea was that, and I'm going to turn off the campgrounds for a moment just to show you where I am here. So here I am, and we're in Daytona Beach, Florida, for example, and we want to hop in the RV, and we want to go to Mount Rushmore, right? We want to see Mount Rushmore. So we're just, for the new RVer, and even potentially a seasoned RVer, it's like, okay, well, this is going to help me plan a trip there, but I kind of need a destination. I need a route, I need a destination. I don't even know how to begin. And we've got a great video that explains this, and we've got an updated one in the works. But let's just look at it. I'm in Daytona Beach. I want to go see Mount Rushmore. Let's go to the search area and type Mount Rushmore. Now at this point, I've got a couple of options here. And in fact, if I did it, let's see if I get a little different when I type Mount. Yeah, so I just type Mount Rush, and you can see I've got a couple of options here. I get a couple of campgrounds. Something tells me there's more than just 2 campgrounds in that area, wouldn't you say? And then, of course, I get some places of points of interest, which would, of course, be Mount Rushmore itself and some tours. Well, what I want to do, I don't know what campground I want to stay in yet, but I want to see what's available. So I'm going to choose the actual National Memorial. And no, we're not sleeping at the National Memorial, but what we are going to do is see what's available. I'm going to turn my campgrounds back on. We're just checking our screens a little bit. And we'll click get rid of that. So that giant purple thing just simply represents the memorial itself. But you can see there's campgrounds all over this area. And now I can make a decision on where I want to stay. And this can be based on price. It can be based on reviews. We can look at the campgrounds themselves. We can use filtering. You can see right now I'm just filtered for 3 stars and above. I could add some filters. I drive a big rig, so let's say I want to make sure we've got 50 amp, right? And I could even be, let's make sure it's pet friendly. Okay, so that's, I've still got a pretty large selection to choose from, and I can just click on them. I'm going to get an initial little card, as we call it, that gives me typically gives me a picture, shows a rating and how many reviews, and these little icons tell me it's got all the amenities I need. Okay, and that's about what I would expect for a KOA. That's fine. Here's one that's pretty close. We can see this one is not very big rig friendly. It's not particularly fancy, although I might not want fancy, but we can see that the little slash through big rig means it's not particularly big rig friendly for me. Here's that looks like a nice park, right? So no bathrooms, but I've got facilities in my rig. So I decide, you know what, this is great. Let me just look at it a little bit more, and I can actually see more pictures here. And I can decide, I can make a decision if this is right for me or not, and I can do this 50 times, 100 times. I could even go in here and filter even further, right? Let's say we've got to make sure we have a pet area, or uh, I mean, I can filter till I'm blue in the face here. Let's see what else we've got. Pet park features. Let's grab Wi-Fi as well. So now, yeah, I've added a couple of things, and you can see my list has gotten a little bit smaller. Um, and I finally decide that looks great. Let's add it to my trip. We're going to stay there 4 nights. The main thing I want to bring to attention of that particular process is you don't have to know exactly where you're staying to to find a location. In other words, whether it's Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone, um, Topeka, Kansas, uh, wherever you're going, the idea is to put in a nice general location, get your map there, and start seeing and filtering campgrounds. So I've chosen a particular campground, I've called, I've made a reservation, and in fact, I've gone in here, I gave them a call, and I made my reservation. Um, Put in my reservation number. My budgeted camping was $200. Turns out this was 216.97 because I already know that total because I called and made a reservation. I might not always know that if I don't do that. Um, but the point is, now I've got a trip. I've got a route that I can start building against. One of the things you can see here is that I've got 3 um, fuel stops planned. Of course, that's based on my fuel capacity that I've put in with my RV info. 100 gallons, I keep 30 in reserve, 7.5 miles per gallon. And so it calculates that. I think it's 575. It shows me a fuel warning every time I need it. Um, I've got another trip in here. I want to show you something. Let me see if this is it, or if I burned it somehow. It's very similar. I'll have to come back to that. I had another thought, but we're going to stick to the script a little bit here. Okay, so we've started essentially building this basic trip. Let me just go open that one again. That was Route Rushmore 2. And the idea is that I would start from my Florida destination using the driving radius that I've set up. I'm going to know exactly where I'm going to be at the end of my driving day. And we'll just touch on this, and then we're going to go look at a couple of other things. Now, within, again, my trip settings, I've determined that I'm running an average speed of 60 miles an hour. Now, this one always gets a few people. Most of you are going to probably want 55 there. It is not how fast are you going on the freeway. This is how fast are you going at the end of the day, including stops, and what does your average speed end up being? We know for most people it's 50, 55, or 60 miles an hour. I was at 55 for a long time when we were stopping once or twice for a rest area and things like that. We've now kind of discovered that we take shorter journeys without stopping, and that our average speed has actually increased a little bit. So I'm putting 60 miles an hour in there. I'm choosing to show the advanced driving radius, and I've got my goal set to 4 hours a day. And that's really, of course, my picture's in the way. Let me go to this view here. And I've got my average set to 4 hours a day. So when I look now at my radius, this is based on the criteria I gave it. This is exactly where I'm going to be at the end of my driving day. This is where I want to be after 4 hours of driving an average of 60 miles an hour. So now my goal is to turn on my campgrounds again, and we'll look at our filters, and I'll keep these same 3 filters for now. And my goal is to find a campground as near this line as I can. And I can see I've got an option here, this River RV Park. And what's nice about this little card that pops up, I can see big rigs in the picture. I can see 7.4 rating. I can see all the amenities. I already know that's probably a pretty good option, right? and I've got a few a little farther. Here, this one I'm willing to drive. You can see the scale down the lower right here. This is maybe half an hour less. This up here, maybe 20 minutes more to choose one of these other campgrounds. And so let's say I have a KOA card and I prefer KOAs. I could go ahead and choose this knowing that it's just going to be a little bit farther than my 4 hours. I know that that first day I'm going to be in for 4:15, 4:20, something along those lines. Um, but it doesn't matter. Let's stick with this one. We're going to add it to our trip. We're just leaving home. We just want one night and we're going to hit the road again. Now, we're not adding this after Mount Rushmore. We're actually adding it after Daytona. And now when we show our entire trip again, we can see that our driving radius has moved now to River RV Park, and it's going to show me where I'm going to be at the end of the next driving day. And it's kind of lather, rinse, repeat, right? I have my filters turned on. I look for a campground. Now, here's something that's pretty interesting. I don't have a whole lot of selection there within my desired radius. Um, I'm just looking at my comments. Uh, this is the RV Life Pro, known as RV Life Trip Wizard. This is the RV Life Trip Wizard component of what we call RV Life Pro. And the reason I just randomly blurted that out was because of that question right there. So, so going back to this, so here's a case where I'm going to temporarily turn off my filters. And now look how many campgrounds show up. And so now I've got to make some decisions about camping, knowing that some of these filters aren't, some of these requirements I have aren't going to be met. And I can see that this campground does not have Wi-Fi or big rig access. Okay. This one doesn't really have big rig access. You know, I'm going to look at these and try to determine, okay, this is, I'm going to have to go a little farther here up my route and try to find something. What's amazing about this is at this stage in my trip, I might decide to go, you know what? We're going to nix our first stop. We're going to start over knowing that it's our first day. We're leaving early. We're anxious to get out of Dodge. I'm not going to go a half an hour early and choose that campground, turn my filters back on. Instead, we're going to go ahead and go long. We're even going to go way out here. All right, this KOA looks great. Let's drive a little farther. We even go a little bit farther. Let's drive an extra hour. And what's nice here, it shows me right here, this is 339 miles. And I can decide, yeah, that's a little far for that first day. 332 miles, that's a highly rated park. Perry's a nice area. But I'm making a decision on my first day, and I'm like, you know what? We're gonna wrangle everybody up early, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna drive farther. So we're gonna add this one-nighter to our trip. Now, why did I do that? Why did I make my first day an hour and 38 minutes longer than I wanted, you know, than I said I wanted? And my reason for that is twofold. Number one, it is the first day of a trip, and we know how we all are. We're anxious to get going. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to put this on the screen and then I'm going to finish the thought. We're anxious to get going, and so I really, I just know I can drive farther. Plus, it puts me in a better spot for that second day. Remember, we looked at that second day, we didn't see anything we liked. Let's zoom in on that second day now. And we can see with my filters engaged still, you can see I still have all my filters engaged. I have a much better selection. And now I can take one of these campgrounds that's close to my stop. I can add that to my trip. We'll stay 2 nights since I hate to do 1-1-1s. Whoops, not after Daytona. And now I've got my second night planned, and you can see I'm going to need fuel during that journey. So, which is another reason, you know, a fuel stop might take me 20 minutes. I'm pushing diesel. If I get behind some trucks, that fuel stop might, I've had them take half an hour. So that's going to factor into how much I want to drive that day. The beauty of this is I'm planning it all ahead. I'm doing it all ahead of time. I'm thinking through this process and these thoughts, and I'm making these decisions early on. So let's circle back to Lee's question. Filters do not show up. What I'm wondering here is, let me think why filters. Here we go. Lee, check this under the map settings. Go to make sure enable filters are on. This is the same thing as this button up top. Toggle filters on, toggle filters off. The benefit of this quick toggle, number one, it means I don't have to drill down into a couple of layers, but it's also a great way to expose something we saw just a moment ago, where there weren't any campgrounds anywhere at all near where I expected to stay that night, and I thought, well, that's kind of odd. But when I turned on the filters, turned my filters off, it showed that there were plenty of campgrounds. Versus, excuse me, versus going in there and nitpicking, taking one filter off, taking another filter off, taking another filter off, taking another filter off. I got 5 filters. Um, I don't I don't want to nitpick at them. I just hit a toggle, show me the filters, turn them back off. There are plenty of campgrounds. They just don't meet my criteria. So that's the handy part of that. Um, okay, and then hopefully, Lee, I have answered that for you by showing you that filter toggle, which is really in 2 places, which is not uncommon. It's you're going to find a lot of these controls are in a couple of different places. So um, I would effectively, if to put a bow on this trip particularly, I would just continue to build that out, to think about my days. You know, when I travel, we like to go one night and then stay somewhere 2 nights, and then go one night and then 2 nights, just to break it up a little bit. I that will change if I get a really nice campground. Perhaps I may stay 3 nights, and then I'll do a couple of one-nighters if I'm going through somewhere that there's just nothing good there, and we'll do a couple of back-to-back one-nighters, but it's pretty rare. It's almost always for us a one night, 2 night, one night, 2 night till we get to the destination. So you can see I could easily build that trip out and get to my final destination. Let's address the fuel situation here. You can see based on the mileage information we discussed earlier, um, I'll put this question up and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Um, Based on the mileage information I mentioned earlier, let's just review it, which is, oops, RV info, which is I am running 100 gallons. I keep 30 in reserve. Um, the reason I have 30 is because as a motorhome owner, you've got to keep a quarter of a tank for your generator and diesel heater, anything that require fuel. So that's 25 for me. I put the 5-gallon buffer on there just because I like it. I feel more comfortable with that. I put 7.5 miles to the gallon. Um, Food for thought for you. I actually know that I get 8, but as I mentioned, I'm all electric, so I have diesel heating and we run the generator to keep the air conditioners on, that sort of thing. So I burn a little bit of fuel that way. So if I set it at 7.5, it's right on the money for me. You kind of got to figure out what works best for you. Um, so, but that's where I'm getting my numbers from. So every 575 miles, I'm getting a fuel warning. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to turn on the fuel stops. And actually I can do it this way where I just hit fuel. In my case, I actually like to use just Pilot Flying J because I have one of those little credit cards. And as it turns out, how handy is that for me? There's one right near my fuel stop. So that's beautiful. It's not always the case. If that wasn't there, I'd have to decide, do I want to stop early or do I want to stop late? This is where just knowing your rig comes in handy, knowing I can go a little farther or I can't go farther or whatever. But in this case, we're just going to take the obvious one. And this is after, let's see, that's Perry. So we're going to grab that fuel. I'm going to add it to my trip. I'm not putting any nights. I'm not sleeping there. This was after our Perry Ponderosa. and my fuel warning's still there. What the heck? Well, that's because I haven't added any fuel. So we're going to go to the pilot here. We're going to virtually fill that tank, and we're going to save it. Now the fuel warning is gone. All the other fuel stops are recalculated. Let me zoom out a little bit, and you'll see the next one now is around St. Louis. If I was leaving home with less than a full tank, I would edit my starting point and I would override my starting fuel. Maybe I only have 3/4 of a tank. I'd put 75 gallons. All the fuel would recalculate. So it's an amazing feature. I've used it for years. It's dead on. If you know your miles per gallon, I can know exactly what I'm getting into. So before we go farther on that, let's go back and look at David's question. Um, taking a planned trip to the Garmin, uh, there is a mechanism whereby that can take place, but it does involve you using Garmin's base camp. And so if I'm in Trip Wizard, I want to say take this trip out to the Garmin, I'm going to go to the wrench icon. I'm going to go to export trip and GPS export. And I'm going to grab one of these file types. Typically, the Rand McNally's use the CSV and the Garmin's use the GPX. Once I download this file, it just sits on my downloads folder. Trip Wizard, RV Life Trip Wizard's done at that point. Now it's up to you to take that file, import it into Garmin Basecamp, and then from Garmin Basecamp, push it to your GPS. It is a workable process. It's not much fun. My GPS is a Garmin in the head unit of my rig that reads from SD cards. So I'm not doing this. Okay, it's just not going to happen. I'll tell you what I do, and let me share my phone with you. Let me open this thing up again and just show you this. So let's hide David's comment. We're going to stop sharing Trip Wizard for a moment. We're going to share my phone, and I'll explain how I do this. So what I do is, my trip's already there. If we swipe down to refresh it real quick, we can see that my Mount Rushmore 2 trip is there. And you can see there's exactly what I planned. And notice how I just did that a minute ago. That pilot that I just added, I just added it. You watched me. And here it is. It's already on my phone because it's pulling it out of the cloud. It's a beautiful thing. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for my navigation, from my step to step to step kind of navigation. If I use the head unit in my rig, my GPS in my rig at all, I will put my final stop of the day, my campground, and maybe I'll just plug that in there, just as a kind of a running clock. You know how it says, well, you're going to arrive at 4:51 p.m. or 2:51 p.m., whatever. But I'm still going to use my phone to navigate for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to know when the rest area is. I want to know when the fuel stop is. I want to know when the next leg of my journey is versus just the campground at the end of the day. More importantly to me is when I start off on this journey and I start to navigate, I want to match my trip route exactly as I have taken the time to plan it in Trip Wizard. And we'll go back to Trip Wizard in just a moment, but I don't want my Garmin, for example, knows I need to get from point A to B, but it's going to get me there however it desires me to, right? We're still providing an RV safe route. We've plugged in the RV dimensions in both the app and in RV Life Trip Wizard. So we're routing you via a safe route. When I go to Trip Wizard here in a moment, that route is an RV safe route. But I want to follow that route that I spent the time vetting and planning. I don't want to leave it to the whim of a GPS. So I'm going to use my app in that fashion, but that doesn't mean I might not use my head unit to give me a run at the end of the day. And there's times where I just turn the app off, possibly. Like, for example, if I run from Amarillo to Albuquerque all the time and on down I-40. I don't need to know, I don't need the GPS for that most of the time. I know exactly where I'm going, and I might pull it up occasionally to see what my progress is, but there's times where you don't need it. If I'm in unfamiliar territory, I'm using it all the time. One of the things we mentioned was, if you're joining us late, is that I do have the option. Of course, it's building a route from, and I think I'm in Texas, so it's going to have a problem, to download the map data to my phone. So that if I do lose a cell signal, I want to just cut down on my data usage. I just download that ahead of time and I'm good to go. So anyway, that's kind of a sidebar on the GPS thing. The Garmin stuff does require that third-party intermediary. You just have to decide on your own whether it's worth the hassle or not. Again, for me, mine's a head unit, and the only access to it's an SD card. It doesn't make sense for me. So I'm going back to Trip Wizard. Let's see what kind of comments we got here. And I actually do like having them both running. I would have liked, so I use my Garmin GPS, which I keep updated in my unit, to go to Monument Valley, right? And it chose the way I was supposed to go. It did not take me down that $10 million view down the 163 where it pans out in front of, the Forrest Gump Road and all that. It took me some backwards way, and I got to Monument Valley just fine, but I didn't realize till I was leaving Monument Valley, looking in my rearview mirror going, hey, I just missed out on the greatest view in the Western United States. What the heck happened? And so, but that was before planning with Trip Wizard. I would have known that ahead of time if I planned it in Trip Wizard and followed it. Just some of the nuances, but I do like having them both going, as David also states. You can never be too careful with planning, and that's why I stress the planning so heavily. Lee asked, do we have a specific Trip Wizard tutorial on YouTube? Yes, I would recommend specifically going to the help menu in Trip Wizard. We did this earlier, going to video support, not the videos tab, go to video support, and this takes you to the RV Life Trip Wizard YouTube channel. And this series across the top, these product training, are the most up-to-date, most succinct, most accurate that we offer, and they're fabulous. The only one that's not listed here that I would add on to that is this older fuel training one that I did, and not near as well as these are. And these are getting a slight refresh as well, since we did move one of the menus around. It shouldn't be enough to cause you any grief, but that is the specific training I would recommend. And okay, so we'll go back to our trip. We added the fuel. I love the fuel. It's a great feature. But suppose I'm booking along here. We'll just turn on some more fuel stations for effect. And it's in an area that perhaps there isn't that big diesel Loves or Pilot or something. It may be somewhere out in the middle of wherever. And I'm like, okay, I need fuel. Or let's take you guys that have big gas-powered rigs, whether you're in a truck, a gas-powered pickup, perhaps, or you've got a big like a gas motorhome built on that Ford F-53 chassis or whatever these days. And so you've got a pretty good sized rig, but you're running gas. First one I rented years and years ago was a big 36-foot gasser. You guys don't have the luxury of necessarily going through those diesel lanes, so you want to vet those fuel stations out a little bit better than that, right? So you can come down in here and say, well, all right, this one's right off the freeway. That's probably good, right? But let's do better than probably good. Let's go to the satellite view and see how that looks. And it's like, okay, it looks pretty broad. I feel a little bit better about it, but let's do better than that. Let's give it a street view. And now we can see that BP. We can see the access. We've got an idea what this awning looks like. We see the area around it, and we can decide, am I that comfortable with this one? If we go over here a little bit, we've got a car here to give us some scale to see exactly how much room is under that awning. And I'm thinking that's pretty doggone tall. Sometimes you can actually zoom in and see the number on the awning. We're not seeing that in this case, but given the space here, I think we'd be probably just fine bringing our gas motorhome in here. And the goal, the point of this is, I don't have to wonder. And I'll go back to my map style and go back to street maps again. And we'll just turn those fuel stations off and kind of zoom out on our trip again. Um, for new RVers, the fuel stop is a huge concern for both the egress, ingress of getting in and out of the fuel station, and then whether you can fit there when you get there. And it's, the trip's great until your tank's on halfway, and now you're thinking about fuel, and now you're stressing, you're watching the fuel signs, you're wondering how, you're trying to remind yourself how tall your rig is, kids are getting hungry, and you're screaming at them, and it's it's like, okay, you're starting to stress out. You completely eliminate that by just planning ahead, vetting it out. If that fuel station didn't look comfortable to me, I had just picked a different one, and I added it to my trip just the same way I added that pilot to my trip. And now I don't have to worry. I'm going to know that when the time comes, I'm going to choose to get fuel at that moment. I'm going to fill up my tank. It's going to show me where I next need fuel, and I can vet that location out just as easily. So, a huge, huge benefit. We can do the same with rest areas. If I turn on rest areas, we'll just zoom in somewhere here. I'm getting click happy, but we'll turn on some rest areas. Here we go. I can use the same exact technique. A hint on rest areas, though. Don't just grab this baby and say, I'm good to go, right? Zoom in. Let's make sure we're getting the eastbound, northbound, southbound. Some of them are labeled more clearly than others. Here we could use satellite view again. I think we'll find one down here. Here we go. We can see that these are on different, here's a northbound. That's the west, okay, and there's east. So just make sure you choose the right one. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a U-turn somewhere to get this rest area. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add it to my trip and add it. I guess it was after pilot. We'll see if I took a good guess on that. And again, I can vet that out with a satellite view. We'll go to our map settings. We'll do the satellite view real quick. And we'll just make sure this thing looks okay. And you can see here the long avenues for trucks and whatnot. We can see what it looks like here and just decide, yeah, okay, that looks like a good rest area. I'm fine with it. Again, the other thing, look, there's plenty of grass. So if you're taking a pet along, you've got that covered. Sorry about all the zooming in and out there. The whole goal, and I continue to stress this, is to give you the option to properly plan ahead for every nuance and every facet of your journey. Okay, let's touch on something I had planned. Let's go. I've got another trip to show you here. I've got a couple of interesting pieces here. So this first part of this conversation deals with our RV safe routing, our avoidance feature, if you will. We can see here that I'm here in Colorado Springs looking to go from Thorndale Park over to Lunar Park. And we can see that it's taking a pretty circuitous route to get there. And we're like, well, why didn't this just go here down Unitah, Uniblab, ENIAC, Unitah? So obviously something's going on here. Well, if I'm not sure, let's go turn on these low clearances. Ah, look at that. What have we got here? Something, and this is a generic sign. This isn't saying this is less than 10 feet. It's saying this intersection, this something here, and we can see if we see these, this is a railroad. This line here represents a railroad. Obviously, there's a low railroad bridge here, and that's a concern for us, so it's routed us around them. Note that I didn't have to choose that. I didn't have to specify it. The default is to just route around it. Now, if we were just really curious about that, once again, we could go to the satellite view, and we don't have to do that. We'll just go to street view. We'll drag this little street icon here, and we'll be able to look at this thing, and we can see, there we go, 12.6, it's 13.6 here at the very middle if you happen to be fortunate enough to what looks like straddle this white line here, but obviously my rig is spec'd at 12.7. Let's just see if that's true. Yeah, 12.7. So this thing said, look, I don't really care what you want. You ain't going that way. So we're routing you somewhere different. So that's just to see this thing in action. Um, I think it's, we're going to be safe with regard to those bridges and things. Let me tell you couple of mistakes people make. They put in they have a 13.4 rig, which is a tall fifth wheel typically, right? So well, I just put in 14 feet to be safe. So that's a problem. That's over that 13.6. That's kind of that magic legal number. Standard, maybe, perhaps legal is maybe the wrong term, but now you're getting routed crazy routes because it thinks you're an oversized load. Also have, somebody typos their weight and all of a sudden they're at 80,000 pounds and suddenly they're getting routed, down these crazy routes because there's weight limits. So stick with the right measurements and double check them. You can pick them from a list. Your RV should be listed, but when in doubt, double check them and plug in the right values. Yeah, look up RV. So I could look up my RV here. I also put in my actual weight. I think my RV specs at like 45 or something along those lines, but I weigh 36.5 when we're fully loaded. So that's what I put in there. I just prefer to be a little bit more accurate. Anyway, so the other reason I wanted to show you this particular area was to talk about, let me go back to my filters. And I wanted to leave one specific filter here. Let's talk about a missing park for just a moment. It's very rare that we do not have a park, RV park, state park, city park, local park, whatever it is, national park. It's very rare that we don't have one listed. Let me just double check my comments. The reason for that is, of course, all of this data comes from RV Life Campground Reviews, which has been around 20 years. It's the most complete source of data you can find. And all that data is right here in TripWizard. So I don't have to go fumbling around there trying to find the campground I want. But let's just say, and we encourage this by all means, if you run across a park that's not here, please let us know. We built a tool right here to help make it easy for you to do that. But there's another purpose behind it. But if maybe a brand new park, or maybe something that maybe we often find something that changed names, and so it's not listed the same way, but it's in the same location. But let's just say here that I am looking for. I have heard that Goldfield RV Park is right here in Colorado Springs. I'm supposed to meet another family there for a great event, whatever, right? And I'm looking around. And whoops, I'm trying to get to my list, parks. I'm looking up and down this list. I'm sorting alphabetically. And man, there's no Goldfield. There it goes. It goes from garden to golden to happy. There's no Goldfield. So I'm going to do my diligence. I'm going to let those people at RV Life know their campground's not there. So I'm going to go to my help menu. I'm going to go to missing park. I'm going to start typing it in. Goldfield. Wait, Goldfield RV Park, Colorado Springs. There it is. What the heck? As David Byrne might say, you may ask yourself, where is that beautiful park? And there it is. Now, why the heck did it not show before? And I click on it, and what do I have? It's a 2-star park, and I have a 3-star filter. So it's not going to show it to me. So the purpose of that exercise is to show you something about filtering and the pitfalls of being crazy filtering, maybe overzealous, or just simply forgetting you're using the filtering, and to show you how that missing park feature works so that you can actually ultimately, if it was not found there, I could have reported this park and say, hey, here's a park, here it is, here's a location, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to demonstrate that. Now, along the same lines of that, let's look at another pitfall that folks run into. And we'll just broaden the scope a little bit. Let's say that you've heard that the Oasis RV park in Amarillo is the way to go, right? And I know I've stayed at Oasis a dozen times. It's right there on the west edge of Amarillo. It's nice, it's easy in and out, it's good features, yada, yada. I can talk all day about it. But so you're like, okay, let's find that Oasis park. And I get all gung-ho and I type Oasis Camp campground. I start typing camp and all this stuff comes up and I see, huh, um, I don't see that Oasis RV park. What the heck? Well, that's because I got overzealous. And instead of typing campground, RV, I typed campground. If I type Oasis RV, well, there it is, first one on the list. So again, another just a visible, tangible way of saying less is more. Type just what you need and look at the list carefully. You'll see there's another Oasis in South Haven, Kansas. If you're not going to Kansas, that's not the one you want. We'll have the data 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100. We're going to have what you need in here, but you've got to use it right. You've got to just be careful with your searches. Less is more. The other thing I wanted to show you with regard to the Colorado Springs area is I want to talk, take the 3 stars off for just a minute. I want to talk about filters, but I want to talk about these filter types. And actually, I want to talk about types as they fit both with points of interest and campgrounds. If I look at this view, I'm seeing all types of campgrounds. You can see my 0 active features here at the bottom. You can see I have 0 features at the top. I'm seeing 45 parks. This includes state parks. It includes everything, right? Well, let's say I want to see my park types. I'm only interested in state parks. Okay. Now I got this big icon in the way here. Let me just do something real quick. If you ever have a refresh issue, just open something. Just go open another one, and this should clear that up. Okay. We'll turn our campgrounds on. And I didn't want Mount Rushmore. I wanted Springs. Okay. Just a little shade there. So as I see this area, there we go. I've got state parks. Now, what if I say, well, you know what? Not only am I looking for state parks, but I'm also looking for Thousand Trails. Now there's no KOAs. Let's say I'm looking for KOAs. Now I just clicked KOAs here. You can see they're both selected, but now I have no campgrounds to choose from. Why? Because there are no state parks, forests, or preserves that are also KOAs. Now, you can stack search criteria, but not when we're dealing with types. So the best analogy I can explain this, and we'll see the same thing in points of interest real quick. I can choose rest areas, and that's a type. I can choose fuel. If I choose fuel, I get all of these. If I don't want all of them, I clear the type and I choose just one. But these types, both in the fuel here and in parks, these are a hierarchy above and beyond the below, above and beyond the simple searches below. So let me just, and I'll clarify that in a moment. But if I take away national parks, now I see the KOAs, but I could also add Good Sam, and I get both of them. But the minute I throw state parks back in, there's nothing because that's a type. It's a higher level. Perfect example to make this clear. You're cruising around on Amazon, you search for whatever, right? And you see all this stuff, and you filter by rating, and you filter by brand and whatever, price. But the minute you select Prime only, it changes the whole picture because now you've got a type, you've got a hierarchy that's greater than the other search criteria. So there may be 5-star widgets that are only $9, but they're not Prime. So the minute you click Prime, they're gone. So think of it in that term, and that might help you a little bit with regards to the way this type section operates. You can't stack these in that fashion. So be cognizant of this when you're using your filtering. Similarly, you know, if you pick a state park with Wi-Fi and full hookups, guess what? You're not going to get much of anything. If I don't think there's any near me that have those options. So we can try it. Hookups and connectivity. There you go. Full hookups and Wi-Fi in a state park, Now we have two. Actually, yeah, we have these two. So kudos to them. Those are probably nice state parks. So okay, I think from a let's go check our comments quick, and we're okay there. And let's go back to my notes. I just want to make sure I have um, done some things there. We looked at the low clearance. We looked at the search functions. We looked at the other thing that we want to talk about here. I ran into this today. Is I don't think it'll affect this trip at all. But as some of these toggles that we have, so if we go to our trip menu, we go to our trip settings, be careful with these. Unpaved roads is fine. And in fact, TripWizard will warn you when there's an unpaved road so you can investigate it a little bit. Very often, you get that yellow exclamation mark and says unpaved road. My God, I'm on I-40 going across the country. It's impossible. It's usually that last quarter mile, that last eighth of a mile into the campground. Very often that's unpaved that it might be flagging. So you can do your due diligence by zooming in and checking that with the satellite view and the street view, that sort of thing. That's another reason we give that to you. I've also seen it come up on a single lane blacktop with gravel shoulders. And you think, well, that's not unpaved. It's not unless there's traffic coming the other way. And then you're getting, both of you are getting half your wheels onto that unpaved area. So just be aware of that. You can also run into it on a road that used to be gravel or unpaved. And this is where the street view and the satellite view are real handy. You can see that it looks pretty freshly paved, meaning it's been updated, but they haven't reported it to the state, or the state hasn't reported to Department of Transportation, or whatever. One of those types of scenarios. Google Earth, which is what we make a call out to Google Earth when we look at some of these satellite street views, and that's always very up to date versus your government record keeping, which is not always so up to date. But be careful with things like avoid tolls. You can, if you have a route that's really strange and it doesn't make any sense, let's investigate it. It could be a toll. There's a toll there. Tolls can be masked a little bit as an HOV lane. If there's a particular route, particularly these days when cities have these license plate cameras and there's no booths anymore, and they've turned stuff into a toll road that wasn't before, you weren't expecting or didn't know. I mean, if you come through, DFW, you don't know that the George Bush Turnpike is a toll road. You're just like, sweet, that looks like a great road to take my RV on. And then you get a bill a month later, with your license plate on it. Well, if you've chosen to avoid toll roads, it might not take you down the 161 and might take you a different way. You're like, well, why the heck isn't it taking me down the obvious route? So keep that stuff in mind when you're playing with these toggles. Obviously, avoid highways is a pretty rugged one. So be prepared for that. So I wanted to touch base on those. Let me just double check my notes. And the same holds true with the mobile app. Let me see if I can share the mobile app again. And we're going to go to stopping this one. Hey, everybody. And share this mobile screen again. One of the things I wanted to show you here, if I pick, let me try to pick something that's not going to, I had my local, here it is, local trip. As I start to navigate this, let's see if it does it here. Well, there's navigation. It's not really what I wanted. I'm trying to find the toggle here. I don't know why. Let me try this one. Oh, I know. If I match it exactly, it doesn't give me the choices. Here we go. So if you let's say you have a route, but you didn't plan it in TripWizard, or you're just using this in an ad hoc fashion. Okay. When I'm planning it in TripWizard, it's going to follow that trip exactly, which is exactly what I want, which is why it doesn't give me these other options. But if I'm using this in an ad hoc fashion, either from that menu or, for example, just simply using the GPS feature from current location to Syracuse, New York, hit go, I'm going to get the same option. If I have avoid tolls selected here and I'm not paying attention to that, well, I'm going to get a wacky route probably, right? Or, I'm going to get a route that maybe I didn't expect. Similarly, I've seen a lot of people touch one of these inadvertently um, when I've seen them touch avoid highways, or maybe they had it on and they went to touch it to turn it off, but accidentally turned on another one. I mean, it's all dexterity, right? And now I view my RV safe directions. So the point being, just be aware of those toggles either in the app or in TripWizard, because they will surprise you if you've picked something you weren't expecting. So we'll go back and we'll just pull up the TripWizard screen again. And I'm going to check comments. Let's see. Alcinda, I've changed my route to avoid highways on my PC, but the new route didn't sync to my phone app. Any idea? Usually that's just usually it should be a fairly quick thing. Let's go back to the phone. And one of the reasons I'm bouncing in and out of here is the resources and things. I just want to make sure we don't overload things here. So one of the things you can do, Alcinda, is to go to a different part of the app, go back to your trip, and then swipe down and give that a chance to reload, because it will change. And we saw earlier that the Mount Rushmore trip had that pilot and it was almost instantaneous. Now, granted, I'm on pretty good internet here all the way around, but be sure and pull down to refresh. It should change it. Also, as we said, when you choose that trip, if I choose to match my route exactly, then that's what it's going to do. It's not even going to ask you about those other nuances. It's simply going to follow the exact route you have in TripWizard. It's just going to follow it. So as long as it's right in TripWizard and you choose to follow it exactly, you might not actually get presented with that option. But it comes down to refreshing. If you have to, close the app completely and then reopen it. So hopefully that will help. All right, I don't see any other questions yet. Let me check my notes and see if I've covered everything I want to cover today. If you have trouble, or if you get a route that's really strange, particularly with the particularly when you're ad hoc navigating like we just demonstrated, close the route, go back, check check the toggles again when you refire that route, but also give it another time to make a call and refresh that route. If you have anything wacky going on, do that. I don't think I've hardly ever see it, but I also let's talk about just briefly. We did an RV show, and I talked about this in a previous video, but I just have to bring it up again. Using the ad hoc standalone GPS functionality is going to give you an RV safe route. But like any GPS, if there's a road change that hasn't been reported, it hasn't been reported to the Department of Transportation, hasn't been reported to the state, hasn't been reported to whomever it's supposed to report to. So they update those core maps that the mapping companies read from. There's always the possibility of a standalone GPS routing you somewhere funky, a dead end road, somewhere, a location's moved and it's never been reported, all that type of stuff. However, and even our own app, from that standpoint, if I just fire it up and go somewhere, am I guaranteed not to end up at a dead end road? And my answer always is, I guarantee you'll get there in an RV safe way. But if we want better than that, and we all do, that's where the trip wizard part comes in. If I match and follow my route exactly, and I've planned and matched my route and vetted it out using Trip Wizard, and I've looked at the route and I've looked at the campgrounds I'm going to and the rest areas and the fuel stops and satellite view and street view. You know, we didn't even go into elevation and grade. Let's go back to Trip Wizard and let's pick a little bit bigger trip. If I'm bringing up this big Mount Rushmore trip, and let's say I've done my homework and I went to satellite view and I went to street view and I did all that. Now I'm wondering, well, gee, is there any big hills I need to worry about, right? I can go to elevation and I see, wow, look at this. When I get close to Mount Rushmore, it's going to go up really high. But if I switch to grade, I look at that chart and I realize those are 0 to 2% max. That's nothing, right? I mean, that's nothing with regard to grade. It's not going to be a concern for me. If I hear that near, what do we call this campground? Near this KOA, there's supposedly a road with a bunch of trees in it that'll hit my RV. Will Trip Wizard keep me away from that? If it's an RV safe route that's safe for truckers to use, there's a good chance that we're not going to be able to keep you from it because they let the trees grow. There's no database for that information other than our campground reviews. Perhaps we see in this park details under tips and tricks, somebody says, here you go, not close to a grocery store, so plan ahead. This, go hiking and enjoy. This one might say trees on incoming road are terrible, right? And so we decide, hey, I need to know if that's true. So once again, we break out our friend, we don't have to go there, we break out our friend to Street View, and we try to look at this thing. I don't know if I'll get a view there or not. Yeah, there we go. And there's what that road looks like. And sure, there's some trees hanging over it. That means I probably don't want to go flying through here at 60 miles an hour. I'm going to go slow, and I'm going to try to get to the edge. This is an RV safe route. I mean, it's going into a campground, right? But yeah, we're not going to be able to keep you from trees hitting your rig. This is where, if this is what you've heard or this is one of your concerns, you've got to do your due diligence. I mean, frankly, if this is the campground, I'm going to be out here asking, wanting to trim this dang tree because that's going to hit every RV that comes in and out of here. Now I can see I can go way over to the side, but if there's another one coming the same way, this guy is, whether I'm coming in or out, somebody's going to hit these trees. So those are just little nuances, but they're things that I can determine if I've got a concern. And so wherever that concern is, those are things you want to address. So let's look at David's question. Is there a clear all toggles to clean up your choices? I was kind of wondering the same thing, David. In a sense, somewhat. Up here at the top, I have these options. I can turn on and off the points of interest with this little doodad right up here. So if I have any selected, let's say I have all the fuel selected, and I'm in my map, and I'm like, I just want to turn the fuel off. I can just do it up here. There's campgrounds on and off, which we've kind of shown a little bit. Let's back out a little bit here. There's campgrounds on and off. And the map settings really just brings that up. And as far as these kind of toggles, no, there's not really a shortcut there. You're still going to get a little bit, but there are the filters. We talked about that, of turning on and off all the filters. So we've got a lot of that built in, probably not every single one. And and I don't know, that might be something to look at too. And some of these are crossovers. Like this says I have 2 selected, and low clearances is one and show campgrounds is the other. Well, I can actually address those in here, right? I can clear points of interest, clear hazards, and I can turn off campgrounds. And now I just have the one, which is show low clearances. I thought I grabbed that. So lots of crossover. It's kind of like Microsoft, go back to the Microsoft Office analogy. There's 9 ways to copy and paste something. You can use keyboard shortcuts, you can pull it from a menu, you can pick another icon, whatever. So we've got a little bit of that going on. So not a perfect world, but we'd rather have you more power than not enough power. Okay, so let's look at, I think I've just about covered everything, but I want to double check my notes. Um, oh yeah, so the only other thing I want to show you is, the emphasis here has been on kind of the big trip, the mammoth trip, the life-changing trip that you're going to remember forever. What about just a regular old RV trip? A lot of people say, well, I don't need RV life because I don't go anywhere except near the house, right? Well, that's true, but there's still a great deal of value in this, not only in the RV Life GPS portion. Bear in mind, unless you already have an RV Safe GPS, they're $300 to $500 or more. Well, this is $59 a year, and we give you one built into the app, right? So in that sense, it's already got the value you need. However, let's look at, I have a local trip planned. And this is fairly, I added this on, this doesn't belong there. So this is a fairly typical scenario for me. I've already stated that I typically like to drive about, whoops, I don't want to delete that. Typically like to drive about 4 hours when I'm going on a trip, right? But when I want to do a local trip, we want to stay within 3 hours. So I can do a couple of things here. I can go to my routing and driving and I'll set that to 3. Or we'll see what that looks like real quick. So now this is everything within 3 hours of driving. Obviously, you can see that through the congested heart of the Metroplex, it's 3 hours gets me a lot less than hanging out west does. But I can also go by miles if I wanted instead to drive, say, 200 miles. I could come down here and just 250, 300. I could actually just make them all 200 if I wanted, because I really only like to see one ring, and it accomplishes the same thing. I prefer to go by hours, and I can set miles in increments. We've got a lot of power there. If you're not if you're a miles person, just use your miles. That's fine. I'm just going to stick with my 3 hours, and we are going to choose only Corps of Engineers. Now, let's take a look and turn my campgrounds back on. And so as I zoom in here, now I'm looking at only Corps of Engineers parks that are in the area. And then of course my green blob basically represents how far I'm willing to drive to get to these parks. And then I can look at them here. Obviously, some of these don't have hardly any amenities. Most of them don't have full hookups and don't have Wi-Fi, but that's fine. Whatever your bag is, if it's KOAs, if it's whatever, you can filter. But I can use this for choosing a local campground, a local destination, and I do it all the time. We've been to, and if I take away the other option I do is I pull out Corps of Engineers. And let's say it needs to be a working vacation. We want to get away from the house, but the wife and I both have to work. So now we'll go back to 50 amp, full hookups. We're going to pick 4 stars, and it needs to have pets allowed and big rig access. And now within that same 3-hour journey, I've got, a variety of campgrounds. And I can attest to this. This is pretty doggone accurate because based on these roads, this is how long it takes you to get somewhere. If I was doing miles, it would be a little bit a more skewed pattern because it's miles, and that doesn't work for us. I'm not interested in going to Sulphur Springs if it's 4 hours. I want to be 3 hours or less. That's the criteria I have. So, and I filter out all these parks, and I can actually look at my parks list, and I can sort them by a variety of things here. You know, that's again, it's but this is a great tool. And now we can go to my phone. I guarantee you, the local trip that I have will be on my phone. I can use that phone for navigation. So RV Trip Wizard isn't just RV Life Trip Wizard isn't just for, or the RV Life Pro suite, if we're speaking in broader terms, isn't just for the big once in a lifetime trips or the trips you make, once a year. You can use it for all of your RVing because it's very economically priced and serves a much greater purpose. One of the toughest things people, particularly new RVers, have doing is they don't know how to find campgrounds. They decide, well, where are we going to go? I don't know. Stephenville. Okay, let's Google campgrounds in Stephenville. It just doesn't work that way. Google's great, but it doesn't operate in the same sense and the same pattern that we do, where we're showing you exactly every campground that's around Stephenville and beyond. There really isn't anything in there. If I turn off my filters, there we go. So we've got some in Stephenville if I turn off my filters. So if I use the Google method, I might only see these 4 or 5 campgrounds if I'm lucky. I won't see these other great ones all around it that are only 10, 15 miles away. Again, it depends on my objective. You just can't get a broader selection than using it in this fashion. And basically, I have been able to do all of this data. When I'm ready to make reservations, I can just click on something, go to the park details. I've got websites, I've got phone numbers, I've got features, reviews, Q&A. Obviously, I pick one that doesn't have a Hard 8 has good barbecue. I can attest to that. I don't have to leave the tool. I don't have to go to other websites. I don't have to download stuff, go to other apps. I don't have to get out big books and things like that. I lugged 45 pounds worth of giant books and things like that I used to use to find campgrounds out of my rig and use that stuff for, I think we put potato chips and wine in that spot. So, don't get me wrong, but you just don't need it. All of this is here. I'm doing all the planning ahead of time. If I make these reservations, if I call them up and say, sorry, we're booked, well, I'm going to find another campground. They're right in front of me. Just pick another one, add it to my trip. And if I know exactly where I'm going to be. I could go on and on, but we probably need to save time for another session. So we are at an hour and a half now, and I don't have anything else. Let's see what we got. Can you use hours and miles together or use one or the other? Great question. And we'll look at Bob's question too. So this is a great question, Alcinda. It's one or the other. You pick one or the other. Let me go into that. So if you prefer miles, now you can game the system just a little bit, right? So let me show you that. So we determined earlier that I based all my driving on 60 miles an hour, right? Where did we do that? Oh, that's when I was on, here we go, average driving speed. It was a different trip, but if I've put my average driving speed at 60 miles an hour, but I want to see miles, well, and I know that kind of deep down, I want to drive 4 miles or 4 hours, right? Well, let's choose miles and let's make sure my middle destination is 240, 60 times 4, right? And now I can show 200 and I can show 290. So I've got, let's do 280. So I've got 40 miles on either side of my target. Let's see what that looks like. So now when I'm planning this trip and I've established that I'm willing to drive 4 hours or 240 miles, I can see where that ends up. And I can decide, let's pick a destination here. And obviously the 3 rings is harder to digest. We can turn campgrounds off for a minute. But if I set my target as the middle ring, the yellow one, let's say puts me in New Braunfels, I know by looking at this thing that if I drive 40 miles less or 40 miles more, I know where I'm going to end up. And you could set a tighter radius than that. You could set it to um, 10 miles on either side. But I just find that more difficult to digest. However, once again, if we set them all for 240, then I get my one ring, and I've told TripWizard to show me miles, which it does. I don't know how I ended up with two. I must have did something wrong. But I'm also sort of um, gaming the system in a little bit, in that I know that I'm still getting the same amount of. I probably didn't refresh. I'm still getting the same amount of time that I wanted, because it's again 60 by times 240. So this is probably just a refresh issue. We'll open the bucket list trip, and then we'll open the local trip back. Hopefully there's not some unknown bug I didn't know about. I guess it would be unknown. Yeah, there you go. So in this way, I'm showing 240 miles, but I also know that's in my 4-hour range because of that 60 miles an hour. It's a little bit different if my average speed is 50 or 55 or something else, but in this case, that's kind of a way to game the system a little bit. All right, let's see what Bob had to say. Yeah, this is a great question, and we sort of have this. Bob says, one thing I wish to show me: landmarks, sites, attractions. So we kind of have that in a sense. If we go to points of interest, and I'm looking around the DFW area, and this actually brings up a great little trick I'll show you. If I come down below these interesting places like Costco and Cracker Barrel, I actually can get to amusement parks, aquariums, churches. Interesting. If you're needing a service on a Sunday, find a lot of churches around here. I don't know why they're all focused there. Search this area. Interesting. Museums. There we go. Libraries, whatever. So the point is, there are some things there. Now, the other thing is zoo. Okay. The other thing that you can do with this feature is, let's, for example, say that we are in fact going to, I better let me find somewhere far more interesting than Dublin, Texas, other than perhaps the Dr. Pepper factory. Let's say let's just use our Mount Rushmore example. Obviously, Mount Rushmore is interesting, but it's like, okay, what else can I see there? So let's say you're looking at this general area and say, all right, we're going to see Mount Rushmore, but we're also interested in finding a brewery, Brewery. So one of the things this can do is, if there's something in this area, here we go, Dakota Shivers Brewing. If I said that wrong, if you're the owner of Dakota Shivers or Dakota Shivers, I apologize. This uses a context-aware searching. It saw that I was in this South Dakota area, and so it provided me an option of something in that area versus showing me every brewery on the face of the North American continent. So I might look at this and see it, and I might, whatever, add it to my trip or do what I'm going to do. So what it doesn't have, Bob, and something that we have in the works and have kind of had it in the works for a while, it's just a process, is that landmark where it's I don't know, Pocahontas jumped off the cliff or whatever. I don't email me about history stuff on. I don't know how Pocahontas died, but the point being, so and so stood on this ledge, or scenic overlook, or Custer's last whatchamacallit, whatever the thing is. We would love to be able to not only show those to you in TripWizard, but to actually pop up a little reminder on the app as you're driving along. This is, hey, this overlook is coming up, because when you're booking along at 45, 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, and there's a scenic overlook and you're 60 feet long, you're like, dude, I just passed it. There's no way I'm going to be able to see that thing. So we'd love to be able to do that. We're not quite there yet. The emphasis is still on, however, That doesn't mean you can't Google or hear about something, or you get one of these books that's 50 things you need to see on Route 66 or whatever. It doesn't mean you can't look them up or plug in an address. We use TripWizard. Um, Suppose you're going to somebody's house or somebody's address, and you're not staying the night, but you are going there en route to your trip. So we put in an address: 907 Douglas Avenue, Elgin, Illinois. Here you go. So there's that place added to my trip, right? Grandkids, kids, friends, whatever the case may be, you can add any address. You're a Harvest Host member. We can't show you those for free. That would dampen their business model seriously, and they would be angry with us. But all you got to do is have your Harvest Host tab opened up, grab that address, paste it in there, boom, add your Harvest Host location to your trip. It's that simple. There's almost nothing you can't do with this. Um, and I do wish, Bob, that we could show you those little roadside things, but it's a huge undertaking, and we're working on it, right? Alcinda, so this is a great question. Can I avoid interstate highways but not all other highways? So yeah, so let's talk about um, route coercion. Let me see if I've got a trip I want to feel comfortable. Let's try this Scottsdale thing here. So we have two ways you can coerce a route. Let's say, for example, I think I'm headed down the right path here. Let's pick, yeah, let's use this as an example. We already determined that if I turn on avoid, let me hide this now. If I turn on avoid highways, that's going to be a disaster for me here, right? In this case, if I go turn on avoid highways, all of a sudden it's going to try to take me off the 40, or it's going to warn me there's no other way to get there. It's going to be a train wreck. But in this area, let's say I want to go up to the Conchas Dam and instead go to Vegas, and I want to take a different route. Let's just use this here. It won't take me there unless I choose to go there. But I want to get off the highway is the point of this conversation. So one of the things I can do is I can use the drag route feature. Now the drag route feature can be dangerous, but when you're out here in the West where there's few roads far in between, it's not too hard to just drag something up and drop it and let go. Now my route is, you can see I've coerced that route. We see over here I have a waypoint, a little tiny trash can. Before I trust this route, however, let's turn off drag route for a moment, and let's zoom in here, make sure it didn't do anything crazy. When you're dragging, the secret is to be up here as close as you can be. If you're doing this at this 30,000 foot level, you're going to drag yourself right into this golf course, right into the lake. All kinds of bad things can happen. So you need to vet this out after you've dragged a route. But it is a great way to manipulate the route. I might want to take this route and not be on 40. And then as I get closer to this area, well, I don't find something that's actually got something to look at. But anyway, so the other way I can do this, if the drag route's going to be tough to use in really busy, DFW Metroplex, East Coast, any of these areas that have lots and lots and lots of roads, the drag route can be tougher to use. So one of the ways we can do this instead, we'll delete our little waypoint and our route goes back, is we can just say, yeah, we want to go over the Conchas Dam, whatever this is, and then we're just going to right click. I'm going to create a custom stop, and we can leave it near Conchas Dam. We just leave that if we want. And we'll find that it accomplishes the same thing, but it does it without the route dragging. Either method is fine. It's just the dragging doesn't always work in a really populated area, or if you can't get the granularity or the dexterity to not drag that thing in the middle of a field or something. If I delete that stop and turn on dragging again, and I just grabbed something up and just let it go. All right, that looked fine, right? Well, let's zoom in and see what I did actually. And you can see here, I dragged this baby up along the highway into somebody's backyard. It's going through a dirt road, and then it's coming back. I mean, it's a disaster. And I didn't need to do that. So the point of that being here is if you're going to use the drag route, use the sensitivity and the dexterity and double check your work to make sure that it did indeed do what it was supposed to. And here I can see that I did it right again. So it's real easy when you're close up like that. The thing you're not going to do is you're not going to drag a route from New York to LA and you're just going to drag it somewhere. All right. It's not designed to do that. It's not supposed to do that. TripWizard will draw the most efficient RV safe route for you, and then you can drag it. The only thing you want to make sure of, and it doesn't, usually it's going to give us a warning. Like if you drag it somewhere that's not RV safe, it may say here in yellow, no RV safe route. And what that means is you've overrode it. You told TripWizard, I'm smarter than you. We're going this way. And that's fine, but you'd better vet that out with satellite view and street view and turn on hazards, make sure there's no low bridges and crazy stuff going on if you're going to override something. In this case, it didn't give us a warning. This is perfectly fine route. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, so Rick, after dragging it will still provide an RV safe route, but it'll warn you. It'll turn yellow and say no RV safe route found, or something along those lines. I don't know if we've got a. I'm taking a gamble here of going into documentation I haven't been into before, but I mean I've been into it, but not with regard to drag route, just to see if it shows us any of those types of things. I don't think so. But yeah, pay attention to that, and it'll turn in yellow like it did with the dirt road, where it showed us some yellow stuff. And I really didn't take a lot of time to show that. I could probably do that again. See if I can force myself up into that dirt road again. There we go. Oh, there we go. So we see here, this yellow area says no route available without an unpaved road. Similarly, and we can see, we zoom in on it, we can see that these are the unpaved road icons. And I'm sure this is just some dirt road or farm or something back here, whatever it is. So we should see any warnings that that are contrary to our RV safe route should show up there. So anyway, good way to look at that. Always turn drag route back off. If you drag something crazy and your trip gets wonky, don't panic. Just delete the little trash cans over all on the left-hand side like I just did. Yeah, it's not a bad idea to try to avoid interstates only. It's not a bad idea. We'll take all those tips we can. Okay. I think we are good to go. I definitely have covered everything I had. Our goal is to do this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central. Bring your questions, tell your friends. We got other stuff I can cover next week. I think we've got plenty in today. Let me just drop back to my tool here a little bit, and we'll remove that. So our goal, the thing I have to keep in mind is my AirPod battery. Okay, well, I'm in good shape. Our goal is to do this every Wednesday at 11 a.m., at least during the busy time. We will, right now we haven't been emailing. We've sort of been just announcing it through Facebook or whatever. I think we'll probably do an email soon, if not this next time, maybe the time after. But I think I'll go back and look at the preview. I've updated cameras, I've updated lighting, I've done all kinds of stuff to make sure this looks okay. If I feel comfortable with that, we'll shoot some emails out, but certainly it'll always be announced similarly on this page as it was both the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. Um, and we'll see how it goes. Again, our goal is to just help you get through some of the nuance and the learning curve of this amazing tool. And I think that's it. I think we can call that a wrap. So until next time, we'll see you here on RV Life. Thanks and be safe.